everyone. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle along with Juan Williams, Eric Bowling, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. This is a Fox News alert. Big day on Capitol Hill as two of President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet nominees take the hot seats for their confirmation hearings. Attorney General nominee Senator Jeff Sessions is testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and retired Marine Corps General John Kelly, nominee for Secretary of Homeland Security, is being questioned by the Senate Homeland Security Committee. 11 Republicans and 9 Democrats began questioning Senator Sessions this morning. One of the biggest issues he's been facing is criticism from the left on his civil rights record. Earlier, Sessions shot down accusations that he is racially insensitive and disavowed the KKK.
I abhor the Klan and what it represents and its hateful ideology. I deeply understand the history of civil rights in our country and the horrendous impact that relentless and systemic discrimination and the denial of voting rights has had on our African American brothers and sisters.
Okay, so this is an issue where he has faced intense political criticism, especially from the left, despite a very substantial civil rights record, Dana.
Yeah, I've always thought that this nomination was actually going to be fine, and I think today the way to best characterize this hearing was that it was uneventful. Just like a flight that you would take when you land, when they say, "How was your flight?" The best thing you can have on a flight is that it's uneventful. It takes off on time, it lands on time, there's very little turbulence, and you know what you're getting into. And the
Wi-Fi works.
Well, if the Wi-Fi works, it's a total bonus. Then you could like do cheers. He knew this was going to be an issue for him. I do think that he's gotten unfair criticism about his past, and that it wasn't fully characterized in terms of all the good things that he has done. And I think that because he is so smart and knowledgeable and also very charming, that that this nomination will be fine.
All right, so Eric, this is something he tried to preempt, like get the issue right out there from the beginning, making a statement. What did you think about that approach?
We expected this. They were going to come right out of the box and go right after the race issue, and they did, and they got it out of the way. So as much as you don't like these things, I think they're really important to do. You got to listen to them, and you got to listen to the as a Republican or a conservative, you have to listen to the Democrats voice their issues. It started with race. They talked about abortion. They talked about same-sex marriage, gun control, waterboarding. I think was fantastic. He said it's absolute. He says he believes it's absolutely illegal. I wouldn't agree with that, but I wanted to hear him say it. The Muslim ban, he got that out there saying, no, I don't believe in a full Muslim ban. I believe in extreme vetting for people who are dangerous, who exhibit dangerous characteristics.
We have some of those sound bites,
immigration, yeah. But important to hear all the topics being touched and how he's going to answer as the chief lawmaker in the country. I just thought there were some stupid questions. Those were good ones. The stupid ones were, did you chant lock her up?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, really, Senator, honestly. And Senator Franken taking some cheap shots, I think, at Senator Sessions with some arguments that he made based on someone who said something 30 years ago and then had to recount his testimony 30 years ago. So there was some good and there was some bad.
All right, and Senator Cruz stepped in as well.
He crushed that.
Yeah, and
right
he had a little situation with Franken and correcting the record. All right, Greg, what did you think of how he did today, how he performed?
Well, Sessions had a KKK leader executed. He killed a leader in the KKK. You know who didn't do that? Jesse Jackson. Al Sharpton, Malcolm X, Cory Booker, all the great civil rights, Barack Obama, Eric Holder, they didn't kill a KKK murderer. He killed one of them. So all this race garbage is pure garbage. This whole hearing, it boils down to one thing. Would you do mean things to these specific people? That's how all the questions are. So the whole thing is to paint Republicans as victimizers. And that's always been the case going back to Bork, you name it, victimizers versus the victimized. And the goal is, like you say, you have to, the boring the better. Your testimony has to be the world's most difficult climbing wall, where there's not a nook or a cranny that people can get a foothold in. The other thing that's really interesting about it is how boring this stuff actually is. And the only comic relief comes in the protesters, who are essentially the rodeo clowns for the testimony. So when it starts getting a little slow, out come the rodeo clowns screaming. And it's like, how do they think that what they're doing is persuasive? They're actual operation is the most unpersuasive method impossible. It's like, I want to persuade you to my idea by throwing up in front of you. Right. That's exactly what they do. They come off as unstable, screechy, weird, disgusting. Every time they do this, they help the person who's being investigated.
Yeah, I mean, Juan, it seems to me here this was a really concerted effort to denigrate in a malicious way a man's record, his reputation, his history of service to this country, and a very strong civil rights record fighting on behalf of disadvantaged communities and minorities.
I just see it so differently. I mean, I think that there are a couple things at play here, and the politics are large. For Democrats, this is an opportunity to take on one of Donald Trump's main supporters during the campaign. I think that's why we went back, as we heard Senator Leahy get to talk about grabbing women by the genitals and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, the Democrats are using Sessions as a stand-in a sense, for asking questions of Donald Trump. And they're making Sessions have to say, of course, that would be considered sexual assault. But when it comes to
this is political, then it's just they're being partisan and they're playing games instead of taking, why don't they ask him legitimate questions about what he would do as Attorney General?
I don't think so at all. I think you've got to understand, do you consider, it's a legitimate question. Do you consider if a man grabs a woman in that way, is that sexual assault for the top law enforcement officer in the country? I think that's a legitimate question. I disagree with Greg about what he said about Sharpton, Jackson, and all these other people, because none of them were the top law enforcement officer in Alabama.
I agree. I was just saying the point is that Sessions has done more for civil rights than Al Sharpton.
I don't think that's true, but I think I think that Sessions on the ground has a record, and he's presented it today and made the case for himself. Now, I'll say this. When you look at the black community, it's very interesting to me. Condi Rice supports him, and in fact said that he was instrumental in getting Rosa Parks honored, a famous Alabama native. Secondly, Larry Thompson, who was in the Justice Department, also come out supporting. Larry Thompson knows the law, knows all these things. Tim Scott, senator, black senator, South Carolina, also supporting Sessions. On the other side, you get people like Cory Booker, who's going to be the first senator to come out, the senator from New Jersey, who's black. He's going to come out and he's going to say, I oppose Sessions.
Because he's running for president.
Yeah, that's what that is. That's just a
and he also commended working with Senator Sessions on co-sponsoring a bill and said it was his honor and a privilege to work with Senator Sessions on the bill.
Well, there you go. Talking out of both sides of the mouth. Very unique talent.
This is the issue. Okay, this is all this karaoke team sports stuff.
Yeah.
They're all, everybody's friends. Cory Booker is friends with Sessions. Sessions is friends with Dianne Feinstein. Everybody likes Al Franken. They all get along. And then when this comes on and the cameras go on, suddenly it's team sport. And they go, you're a great senator, but I'm not going to vote for you.
There was one issue that both sides brought up, and I thought it was the most compelling and interesting argument of the whole, 6 or 7 hours that I was stuck watching. It was the federalism issue. Remember, it was brought up by a Democrat senator first and then picked up by a Republican senator after. I know we got to move on, but that was wildly interesting to me that both sides could agree on one thing, that the federal government, it was never put in place to oversee every single law and implicate every single law, implement every single law.
And another hot button issue that came up was immigration. Really? Let's take a listen.
Now we got 800,000 people have come out of the shadows that have been signed up. Will you advise the next president, President Trump, to repeal that executive order?
It would certainly be constitutional, I believe, to end that order.
And what's going to happen to those 800,000 if you revoke that order?
Let's fix this system. And then we can work together after this lawlessness has been ended, and then we can ask the American people and enter into a dialogue about how to compassionately treat people who've been here a long time.
Okay, so Dana, obviously this is an issue of contention because immigration has been one of the forefronts of President-elect Donald Trump's campaign and saying secure the borders, jobs here in America, and making sure that we're secure, from a nation as a standpoint, national security as well. So he's addressing this issue as well. Dreamers, because people get upset if you're thinking deporting families, people who aren't committing crimes.
Well, this is where you see the administration, the new incoming administration, start to make the pivot from campaign talk to governing. And so what Senator Sessions said there about working together to talk about this in a rational way, that actually probably doesn't sell well at a rally, but it is better government, and so hopefully that will set the stage for a good discussion about this issue, because we do have to deal with it.
You know, I think on immigration and trade, he's taken controversial stance. He is he was anti the Immigration Comprehensive Reform Bill, and on trade, he's been anti-trade. That's part of the reason that he's aligned himself early with Donald Trump. So I think there are legitimate questions to be asked. I was taken, though, let me just say this, listening to him and on the race issue, when he said he believes there has been relentless systemic discrimination and denial of voting rights in this country. I think it's unusual to hear that kind of language from a Republican. So you guys may think it's a dog and pony show, and he just says that because he wanted to clear that bar.
I think he believes it.
But I appreciated his saying that.
But he prosecuted blacks, but while defending blacks. The people that brought up the issue were black. Mm-hmm. But that was the key point that everybody kept forgetting.
On the voting rights stuff?
Yeah.
No, well,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say that he prosecuted some people in voting rights cases, and some people thought that it was very not only racial but political against the large black community in Alabama. Mm-hmm. That's come out both sides, both ways. But to hear him say specifically he thinks black people have been treated unfairly in terms of voting rights, strong in my brain.
All right, well, next, more on our continuing coverage of today's cabinet confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill. And later, find out what happens when Dana and I land in the Shark Tank at the Professional Bull Riders competition. Don't go away.
Ooh, that's scary.
Continuing now with our coverage of today's cabinet confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill, an issue Democrats and Republicans are completely divided on, the Second Amendment, of course. Here's what Senator Sessions said about background checks.
Will you support laws necessary to effectively apply those laws, including universal background checks that are necessary to know whether the purchaser is a felon or a drug addict or a domestic abuser?
Well, I believe in background check laws, and many of them are appropriate, but in every instance, there are some instances when it's not practical. Like, say, for example, somebody inherited a gun from their grandfather. Those transactions, I'm not sure, should require that kind of universal background check.
Now, Juan, did you think he was going to get a different answer to that one?
Well, if you're asking me what I hoped, Eric, I had hoped that he would say he believed completely in universal background checks. He came close. I mean, obviously, if your granddad leaves you a gun, it's in the house or whatever, okay, so I don't think anybody should be coming into your house and arresting you on that basis. But the closer we get to universal background checks, especially the power of that question was that it came from a senator from the state of Connecticut where Newtown occurred. And he's asking, I think, with some sincerity. That was no dog and pony show. That's the real deal. People concerned about gun violence in this country. And after what happened in Fort Lauderdale last weekend, I think it comes with some urgency to it.
Greg, tough question to answer, especially from Blumenthal, who is, as Juan points out, from Connecticut.
Yeah, it's always going to be, in my opinion, a gotcha question if you don't break down what gun violence is. It's just like, of course, you don't want bad people to get guns, and you don't want children to be shot dead by psychopaths. That's a fact. But when you come at this issue as universal gun violence, and you come in with these statistics without breaking down the specific nature of each thing, that a lot of things are suicide. The majority of these of the gun violence is suicide, and then you have to deal with how do people get guns and things like that. But just to say gun violence, it's like you're kind of always on your back foot because you know what they're trying to get you to say something,
and they're trying to get you on the record.
Yeah,
so they can remind you of it later, right?
And I think that he left himself some room, and it's not a comfort to people to listen to practicalities, but that's what Senator Sessions was talking about. And I think that throughout the hearing today, what you heard him say is that I will follow the laws. And then the question will be, will there be new laws that are proposed either by Congress or by the administration, and how will he sit then? And I think that he left himself some room to be able to make that decision as they come up.
Okay, G.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to go after him in any way they can, but obviously this is one of the confirmation hearings that everyone expected that they were going to try and give him a tough time, especially from a partisan perspective. But the Attorney General is a very important position. We saw that office highly politicized under Eric Holder, much to the chagrin of many people watching and witnessing across the country. It was used as a political arm of the Obama administration, so they can ask these questions, and you saw with consistency and clarity that Senator Sessions answered the questions and said that he was going to uphold the law, essentially that was sacrosanct, and that he would not be engaging in the politicization that he witnessed in the past.
Well, let me just say that he was a political player. I mean, the reason that he supported Donald Trump early is he had good instincts on where the country was, but he also had the issues when we talk about trade, when we talk about immigration. But we can go beyond that and talk about things like saying he wants to defund Planned Parenthood. That's a highly political issue.
Let's talk about this. Senator Sessions was questioned about his stance on President-elect Trump's proposed Muslim immigration ban.
Do you agree with the President-elect the United States can or should deny entry to all members of a particular religion?
I have no belief and do not support the idea that Muslims as a religious group should be denied admission to the United States.
Would you support a law that says that if you're a Muslim, you say you're a Muslim, and when we ask you, what does that mean to you? Well, that means I got to kill everybody that's different from me. It's okay to say they can't come.
I think that would be a prudent decision.
And then he went one step further in saying that he would not be in support of a full registry of all Muslims as well.
Right. So again, this is going from what people heard on the campaign trail to now in terms of the governing, and that Senator Sessions, if he is confirmed by the Senate to be the Attorney General, is saying, no, I am not for that. And I think that a lot of people that had heightened worries, and you saw Meryl Streep the other day at the Golden Globes, she's still back on those heightened worries, and it's not only the incoming administration that's making the pivot from the campaign to governing, but the country will be doing so as well in about a week.
What do you think?
I got to go back to my initial point. This is all, it's garbage. This is like a victimizer's quiz show. They have all of these things. It's like they have this person up here and they go, are you going to defund Planned Parenthood? Are you going to deport Muslims? Are you going to I don't know, put guns in the hands of crazy people? So it's like the idea of keeping people terrified. There was one moment when a questioner was talking about the deportation of illegal immigrants and then tied it to LGBT folks as if somehow he's going to be deporting gays. And I'm like going, I think they put this all up into a giant hot tub of victimization. So and it just keeps going and going and going, and that's what they do.
You know, if that was the case, I would say, I would agree with you. Then this is just a charade, right? This is nothing, and we should ignore it, and why do we even bother to pay attention? But I think that he has a voting record in the Senate. And on that voting record, guess what? He's been opposed to immigration reform. He's been opposed to trade, opposed to Violence Against Women Act, as a hate crime type of legislation. He has a real voting record that is a real concern to people. This is why I thought Dana's point was right on target. So there's a difference between campaigning and governing. And now he says, this is how I will govern. I will obey the law. Mm-hmm. And on that, to that extent, I've got to trust him. It's just why I say, you know what? Donald Trump is our president.
Tell me to tease, KG Bill. Let's get you in here on this.
I thought that he answered the questions well. He did a very good job. He didn't have any slip-ups. And so for him, the day so far has gone extremely well. He was well prepared, it seemed to me.
All right. Up next, before delivering his farewell speech tonight, some of President Obama's celebrity supporters are getting emotional about saying goodbye. Details when we come right back.
As the current president preps for his farewell speech, we know our favorite celebrities will miss him. We know because they made this delightful Valentine.
Knocking on the Oval Office window, I would say, that was probably the peak of my entire existence.
When he just changed all the rules on the table in regards to Cuba with the most succinct motivation imaginable, which is what we've been doing hasn't worked, which made all the sense in the world.
When I was at the UN and I heard our president say that climate change is the most important issue facing not only this generation but all future generations, it was inspiring.
Dancing with Barack at his birthday party. And he's a good dancer. He should not get any flack for that. You're a good dancer.
She's right. He could cut a rug. Look at Syria, Iran, ISIS. I'd say his best move was the chicken dance.
Oh, boy.
And Obamacare, a hustle. Don't worry, sad stars. Obama isn't really going away, though. He can always keep playing a president on TV. He'd probably do a great job, or at least do less damage. So, Hollywood will miss Obama. But what will Obama miss? Donald Trump, ISIS, American dissent? It's hard to miss something you didn't see coming or going in the first place. The rise of ISIS, the pernicious spread of Islamism, flourished under the president. These are the things that he overlooked. Trump represented a movement of dissatisfaction, the dissent, unhappiness, division, cultivated by years of identity politics and the bullying of arrogant, insufferable, intolerant social justice warriors who used the last 2 terms to punish anyone who reminded them of daddy. After so many accusations of sexism, homophobia, racism, Islamophobia, police brutality, half of America, the half accused of everything, threw up their hands and said, enough. Why are we viewed as worse than terrorists? So the rise of ISIS, the orgy of identity politics, and the political changes they brought, how could Obama not see that coming? I blame the golf.
Yeah.
Kimberly, let me go to you first. That video, did it move you?
Yeah.
It moved me.
In weird ways, Greg, in
Yes.
weird ways. Look, this isn't going to be his farewell speech because he has no intention of leaving. He's going to build his education center and his library. He's going to be reaching out for donations. He's going to want to fight to protect, his legacy. He's going to encourage those that were his followers because he has high popularity, ratings on a personal level to stand up to try to oppose, President-elect Trump's policies and agenda and movement in this country. So I think this is just, the beginning. He's going to play into that. He's not going to do, what the Bush family did when they were no longer in the White House. He's not going to take the high road and sort of let the president govern. I do not think that that's going to happen.
Eric, do you think he's going to be just riding President Trump, or is he going to give him some space?
I think he's going to have I think he's going to get involved and have a lot of money behind him and do what he does best, community organize. Ron Paul had the greatest assessment today, the greatest takedown ever. He said Barack Obama started with the Nobel Peace Prize and is ending his presidency with the Pentagon's Distinguished Public Service Medal, but he said sounds about right for a president who bombed 7 nations and became the first in U.S. history to be at war every single day of his 8-year administration. And that really does kind of hit home, right? The only president in U.S. history to be at war for the...
It's a little unfair.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, it is true.
Yeah.
It's still unfair in the context.
What do you think he's going to say tonight during his farewell, Dana? What should he say?
Well, every president gets to have a final say. And it's like the final word, and let him have it. What he's going to try to do is what every president tries to do in a way, and certainly what Winston Churchill did, which is Winston Churchill said he could agree with the history in the future because he was going to write it. And so I think that President Obama will try that. The most frustrating thing for him must be the feelings in the country about the economy. Because from where he started in January in 2009 to where he's leaving it, the economy is improved. And I don't think that he can reconcile the fact that people think the country's going in the wrong direction when in his mind, the numbers look so good.
Juan, first African-American president, incredibly intelligent, very charming. In the end, a letdown, a big, sad letdown for everyone.
Not me.
The worst president in the history of the world.
Is that right?
I'm kidding.
And the next one.
You know what? I don't think there will be a worse president since Obama. I think he's won the title forever.
He's got it?
Yes.
Well, at least
trying to earn a promotion.
At least he's got that one.
Grand champion.
But I'm thinking that, in fact, you guys are right. I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, I'm struck. I wonder if Dana was struck by the fact he's not doing this in the Oval Office, which has become something of a tradition. He's going back to Chicago. It looks like he's establishing a beachhead there, if you think in terms of war, and he's going to go at Trump, I think, from that beachhead, even though he's going to be in Washington.
Easier to do that from Chicago.
But I also think...
Better buy bulletproof glass if he's living in Chicago.
But I think, I am stunned on just this point. This guy has led us out of a very deep recession. I don't think he gets credit for it. Unemployment's down. More people have health care. I think that if you look at, the kind of income, median household income up, stock market up, and yet people don't want to. I don't get it. I guess that's just evidence of the partisanship.
No, Juan, it's the pendulum. 8 years, everybody hated Bush. 8 years, everybody's tired of Obama. But it happened with Reagan and Bush
this
for
guy's
12
numbers
years.
are 55%.
Yeah, but
people like him personally.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on.
I had a great point too.
You know what?
You just have to wait till when I'm on there at 7 p.m.
Write it in your Great Point journal when you get home.
You're a jerk.
When we return.
So mean.
I know.
He loves it.
All right. The Great Point Journal by Dana Perino. All right. Brett Baer is going to join us to talk about the cabinet confirmation hearings, his brand new book, and more. Don't go away.
Washington. A riveting new book by Bret Baier titled 3 Days in January, Dwight Eisenhower's Final Mission. The book focuses on the importance of Ike's farewell address before President Kennedy took office in 1961. Bret Baier, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm not going to read everything on the back, but let me just tell you that my pal Dana Perino, who is a big bookophile, if there's such a word, bibliophile, whatever, yesterday on this show said that there could not be higher praise for your book.
Thank you very much.
It's a gift to history. Let me just begin by saying, you know what, we're talking about Donald Trump. What would Ike say to Trump? Now, I thought, but from reading your book, that it's clear both Republicans come into office controlling both the House and the Senate. What would Ike say to Trump?
Work across the aisle quickly, because it could go fast. In 2 years, Eisenhower lost control of both the Democratic House, or the House and the Senate, and they turned into Democratic control. He ended up working with them and passing a major highway bill that created the highway system we have now. But he would say, get on it. Work with them now, and also be cautious about the big decisions, because you have to have dissenting voices in the room.
Now, you know you're a serious guy, but here we have Greg Gutfeld.
By the way, I'm glad you took my advice and changed the title from Killing Eisenhower.
I figured.
Yeah, you don't want any product confusion
It's
there.
true. I know.
True. I always ask writers when they write a book, as it's almost over or you've just sent it off, do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh crap, there's something on page, I forgot to take this out, or I forgot to add that? Because I think I do that like 30 times when I'm writing a book.
So this book, it starts with President-elect Kennedy meeting President Eisenhower. It ends with President-elect Trump meeting President Obama. And I wrote the ending 3 months before because of the deadline for books. So I had a Clinton ending and a Trump ending.
Like the old-fashioned books where you could choose your ending.
Right. So if you get the book with the Clinton ending, you got the wrong one.
Are you going to release the Clinton ending?
I don't think so.
That's really cool, though.
You got to do it. Put it online.
Like the golden egg.
I'm not sure if I'm saying this or not, but I had a deal for the second book. It was Surviving Hillary. Just in case you won. So the other book. Hey, Brett, can I jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
And we don't have a lot of time, but the importance of a smooth transition of power. Tell us about it very quickly. And are we experiencing one?
Well, I think it started that way. I don't know if it's ending that way, but it started that President Obama really wanted to do that. Logistically, I hear that all the agencies are working really hard to help the Trump transition. I think the speech is going to be interesting tonight. And Eisenhower didn't want to list his accomplishments. It wasn't about him. We'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, I have a follow-up, because that was my question as well. What would Eisenhower say if he had, some time with President Obama in terms of preparing these remarks? What would be one of the most important things he would tell him to try and focus on?
Think about America in the future. Be optimistic, but also express what you've learned. That's what he wanted to do. It took him a year and a half to write this farewell speech.
Wow.
And he wanted to send a message that bipartisan was key, deficits are a problem, and the military-industrial complex is something to work with.
What was the deficit when he wrote that?
It was like $100 billion, something like that.
But that point, military-industrial complex, I think so many people, especially people in the 1960s, the anti-war crowd, took that as their banner, a military. But in fact, in this book, you realize that's not what he was talking about.
Yeah, he was talking about the lobbyists, the influence in lawmakers, the circular government officials going to companies, and the influence that has on policy. He also probably would tell President-elect Trump, soon to be President Trump, lay off Twitter. Less is more. But we'll see. That could be Trump's hidden hand, to be out there on Twitter and doing stuff behind the scenes.
Well, he was a reserved and I thought elegant president, and this book is just terrific. Can't recommend it more highly. Bret Baier, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bret, thank you so much. Be sure to catch a special 2-hour edition of Special Report at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight and the rest of this week.
Dana's on.
Directly ahead, Dana, Kimberly, for the professional bull riders competition. Well, hold on tight for a special look inside PBR next.
Okay, we've made you wait long enough. Finally, here's a package you've been dying to see. This weekend, Country came to New York City when the professional bull riders moved into town to kick off the 2017 season. It's one of the most exciting and most dangerous sports on earth. Kimberly and I went to Madison Square Garden to take part in the buck-off. We gave you a little preview of it yesterday. Here's more. West Lockwood.
Great to be here with you at Madison Square Garden. Excited about tonight?
Oh, I'm so excited.
This is his first trip to New York City. What do you think of New York?
Oh, this place is a little overwhelming compared to where I'm from.
Where are you from?
Southeastern Montana.
If we walk over there, can you tell us a little bit about them?
Some of these bulls are tame, but they know once they get in that chute that they have a job to do, and that's to buck you off, and they're not going to be nice about it.
What's your best strategy that you think about how you get ready?
You got to be mean. You got to be just as mean as they are to ride them.
You are mean? You don't look very mean. Tell us a little bit about how big these bulls are, how strong they are, and how well they're cared for.
These bulls, they weigh anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. They're well cared. They're fed every night, just like any other major pet that you take care of.
Any favorites in this group?
Actually, this one right over here at the World Finals, I got on him and I was 89 points on him, so he's a good bull. He can score pretty good. His name is Taxicali.
It looks like he's looking at you.
They must like maybe the way some of them ride them, or I bet you they have some kind
I
of
like him, he's light.
Intuitive sense. Yes.
We're here with Bonner Bolton. It's a real honor because you are quite an amazing guy. Or you had an accident just last year in 2015?
Yes, ma'am. Broke my C2 vertebrae. I kind of came off out of control on a dismount after the ride. Landed upside down on my head and severed that second vertebrae. And I'm having to take things really careful right now.
Because you're not cleared at all.
I'm not cleared to come back.
But in the meantime, you have a new career.
Yeah, so I owe a big thanks to Ivan Bart with IMG Models. He actually presented the opportunity for me to come and be a part of their agency like before I was even out of my neck brace. It really gave me a lot of fire and inspiration to recover and just kind of get back to my feet and put fresh wind in my lungs.
All right, KG, you knew I couldn't bring you here without a proper outfit, so you saw us in our hats earlier, but you also had the buckle and the boots. All right, KG, you ready? Oh yeah, I'm getting very excited.
This is the one and only PBR. For the best of the best. You can't stop this thing we started.
We are in the Shark Tank. Yeehaw!
Doing play-by-play in the Shark Cage tonight from the 5 on Fox. It's Kimberly Guilfoyle and Dana Marino.
So the goal is 8 seconds.
New York City, 26.
There we go.
Oh my God, tremendous.
Oh my God. That's pretty good.
Hey, all right.
Oh, that bull's
well done, Matt Triplett.
If we kicked it off just right.
Wow, this is a really mean bull. Very aggressive. Oh my God.
Your first PBR, you're in the Shark Tank. What do you think?
Once you go PBR Shark Tank, you never go back. There's going to be nothing like that experience. Let me tell you something.
Well, it ended, the interview that we first had with Jess Lockwood, Kimberly, he's the Rookie of the Year, and he won the weekend.
Yeah, over the 3 days, he ended up being the big winner, and I was most worried about him. I was like praying, nervous, the whole thing, but you know what? He owned it. He was fantastic, and you know what was really nice, Dana, is all of the men that we met were so lovely, like very charming, very well-mannered, like they were calling us ma'am and tipping their hats. And then Dana...
we blushed.
Absolutely, we were blushing
little.
the whole time. And it's funny because we met Scott Eastwood when he was here for the movie The Longest Ride, and Bonner, Bolton, was actually his stunt double and did all the bull riding in that movie for him, so it was pretty interesting.
Do you wish you'd gone with us, guys?
I don't know. I think they should do the same thing in reverse, where you have a naked man run out into an arena with some small creature on his back, like a river rat or a raccoon, and he's got to just stay. He's got to have it on for like a minimum of 8 seconds.
That sounds like a great idea for.
Well, it has been done.
It sounds like
we put that in a great point.
Your apartment downtown. I'd like to show you.
Juan, what did you think?
Okay,
you know what? I was worried about the safety of my pals here. Do the bulls run into your shark cage?
No.
They don't go crashing.
I mean, they could. I guess that's why you're in there, but they.
But they didn't come out that far, thank God. But it was pretty scary in there, to be honest. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't scared. But you were a great sport.
What did I do? And I was like,
She grabbed me,
grabbing Dana like this.
It wasn't unpleasant. Kidding. It was pretty fun. Eric, did you love it?
I've seen them before, and these guys are so soft-spoken and so mild-mannered, and
so
they
tough.
are so tough.
Right.
Because I've seen them literally thrown up against the wall, thrown on the ground. They're walking back, getting medical treatment for broken bones, and man, you wouldn't know.
There were doctors right there on site, and Kimberly, we even had the stretcher, and then we had the one cowboy came by, and he asked very politely if he could see a dentist.
No, but it was and he came in, he hit the bull hit his mouth, and then Bonner broke his neck in 2 different spots, and he said, well, it was an ugly dismount. But the thing that I like so much is they have such love and appreciation for the bulls, the way they speak about them. And for each other, very much like the camaraderie and the sportsmanship was really lovely to see.
It was great. We loved it. Thanks for joining us for that segment. And stay with us, because one more thing is up next.
It's time now for one more thing, and it's time for a new feature, Greg. It's very exciting on the 5, and we'll call it Honoring Heroes. Very nice. So today's hero is Lindell Marbut, 85-year-old Texas man, and he is credited with saving the lives of 2 women from a fiery crash this month. He uses a cane to get around, but he found the strength and saw the out-of-control car flip over in front of his yard and burst into flames. He sprang into action, pulling the women out of the car along with his caretaker, Sandra Young, and they dragged them to safety in his garage. The driver was 22 years old, and her passenger both suffered serious internal injuries, but are expected to survive. And the firefighters who showed up, they were stunned. They said if it wasn't for his quick thinking, this brave, courageous man, it wouldn't have been a good turnout. So
fabulous. Our
blessings and admiration. There's a hero in all of us, Greg, even you, and I'll wait for the rest of my life to see it.
Keep waiting.
Okay. Eric.
Okay, so last Wednesday, the guys at IJ Review said to me, hey, check this out. There's a painting hanging in the Capitol. It depicts a cop as pig, cops as animals. One of the cops is a pig. So we went to air. I think we were the first one that said, let's get that thing taken down. Representative Lacey Clay had it hung. So this has gone through some iterations. On Friday, Congressman Duncan Hunter took it down. This morning, Congressman Clay put it back up. 3 hours later, painting was taken down by Dana Rohrabacher. Congressman put it back up at 5:05 p.m. Can we just take this thing down, guys? Can we just agree to take this thing down? It's offensive to so many people, cops and non-cops. Please. That's it.
Dana.
All right, so the president's going to give his farewell address today, and we've been talking about what might he do. Spotify has some ideas. You know, the president's been willing to share with us his playlist from time to time. So there was a tweet by the Spotify CEO. Hey, Barack Obama, I heard you're interested in a role at Spotify. Have you seen this one? It's a president of playlists. So everybody's getting in on the good feelings of sending off the president in a nice farewell. Giving him something to do.
All right.
Really great. That was the worst one more thing ever.
You're just mean.
Terrible. It was awful. Everybody, I think America can agree.
Well, you know
that
what?
was an embarrassment.
She's got a great point, Journal.
Yeah, she had that's not even worthy of the great.
Corny jokes.
That's not even. I'm giving up my one more thing in protest of her one more thing.
Fine.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes,
All right.
Juan, I want you to have the remaining
Juan
time.
has
All right, so if you're a sports fan and you fell asleep early last night, take a look at this.
Watson. Touchdown!
One for the books. Congratulations to the Clemson Tigers on that incredible 1 second to spare game-winning touchdown. Last night's game, an epic rematch of last year's championship game. This time, Clemson won. First national title since 1981, but not the first for Coach Dabo Swinney. He won when he was playing for Alabama back in 1992. Alabama, though, don't be too sad. Gee whiz, Alabama has 16 national championships.
And thank you for those teams. Such a
You didn't like it?
Never miss an episode of The Five. That's it for us. Special report is next.